All right, testing, testing, testing. Just wanted to do a quick little update on the market outlook and the trend trading off the 19th. Was going to do it yesterday, so but I said I'd do it at least once a week, so I'm gonna go ahead and get right to it. Again, if you have any questions about the little journal that I've been doing here, you can always reach me on Twitter or drop a comment, and I'll try to address it in the comment if you'd like to see another asset or anything like that. So welcome on in. All right. So I usually do these over the week. This is a daily chart, and I will go to the weekly chart 'cause that's my most important one. But I wanted to show here one, two, three, four, five, six, seven. So about 7 days ago, we were over in this area. This is essentially what we've had happen over the last 7 days, right? So um, we normally, pay more attention to our weekly charts, but since we've been, in this low bottom range, right after coming down so much percent, we're using the daily to catch these early entries before we get to the weekly 19, right? So we had an entry, we had an exit, um, we had an entry, uh, we had an exit, we had an entry, support. If we zoom in here, we do have some little minor trades that you would have had to catch. This was one here that went under, um, went back, little trade here, and we're here. So we're currently right now, Bitcoin is under the daily 19. So anybody that was kind of like using this method would have basically got out at 23,487. And right now you're just kind of sitting and waiting. If it happens to get back here and looks like it's going to break, we can go back in. But right now it looks like it's kind of rejecting off of this. So you definitely want to kind of stay out and be patient. Now, another interesting thing is, and this is why you have the other moving averages up and not just the 19. If we, I think I did that. Let's see if I can push that back. Here we go. So let me zoom in here. And here is why you have the other moving averages up, and it's important to look at them, right? So if I'm using my method, what I see here approaching is this three looks like it's getting ready to cross over this 19. If that happens, it's going to continue this kind of downward trend that we're in. So I'm definitely staying out from this last exit here. Um, and I'll be waiting to see if it kind of breaches back above the 18. So I'm out right now and looking for this cross to continue that downward momentum down. If the nine starts to cross down as well, then we're probably going to visit these regions down here lower. But right now we're just we took our out and we're waiting. So I'm going to quickly go over to the weekly chart. We'll take a look at that. So you know where your calls have been over the last week using the daily chart. Interesting dynamics we have going on here over in the weekly. If we look back, through time, our obvious exit, if you were using this method, would have been here, 43,392 or so, right? And you've had no reason to get back in because you didn't even break the nine. So you'd have just rolled that all the way down, made all this additional Bitcoin. We did have a little uptrend here. It's just three flattened out, as I indicated in one of the later videos. We kind of lost that downward momentum. We could see the three flattening out, and then we started to get this upward momentum as the three started to climb back up. Use the nine as resistance, and we're still using the nine as resistance. We breached it a few times, but we couldn't establish any support above it. And it's funny because the three is kind of acting as a little light support right now, but yeah, it looks like we could breach that as well. So another important thing you want to look for, this nine looks like it's threatening to cross this 200. I mean, excuse me, 19 looks like it's threatening to cross that 200. If you get this cross, it certainly will bring us back down in these lower ranges. And if we can V this up, right, and that's would be an indicator that we're starting to continue this upward momentum that is kind of stalled out here this week. Um, but we'll be continuing to watch it. Most important thing we're looking for is for Bitcoin price to get above 27,581, and that will kind of turn what I call the market trend, right? So right now the market trend is obviously in a bearish trend. It's going down on this longer weekly chart. So we can't confirm a market trend until we get above this 19 here. So we're still in a bear market until otherwise, right? Our daily trend, however, right, is different. It's not the entire kind of like overall market trend, but it's your kind of day-to-day trend within a 7-day period, right? So the daily trend has kind of went up, right? As we going up here, so we can see where the daily trend, but until we can kind of breach this last resistance here, right? We got all these resistance until we can get the last resistance here, right? We haven't completed this move, and this move here will get us above that or get us near that weekly range or above that weekly range, right? So we see what we're looking at here, and this is what the daily looks like. I'm going to quickly go over to XRP, check in on the XRP price chart. And so essentially we have almost the exact same chart. So we started catching these bottoms down here. This is our pretty much local bottom area. Started to get some breaches, lost it, picked up more XRP, breached it, lost it, picked up more XRP. This time we had the breach and crosses, so it got strong. We had a loss here, came back, breached it, went back hot. Now over here we're using this 19 as support as we continue to go up. We did have a trade out, right back in, and recently we had 1, 2, 3 trades over here, right? So we're creeping around this 19. These are not the best times to be having to deal with this because you do have these breaches where you have to kind of trade back out and sometimes go right back in. But right now we're sitting on the inside, staying above the daily, hoping to break these resistances so we could continue some upward movement. Let's see if I can zoom in here and see what's going on with the EMAs. Take a closer look. Our 3 is kind of trending down, so the current daily momentum is downward. Looks like we're trying to get support above this 9, so that would be positive. But if we do let's get this candle out the way. Oh, that ain't gonna work. Let's see, let's do it this way. If I do get the yeah, there. So if we do get this 3 crossing back over this 9, that'll probably give you some downward momentum. But most important, we're seeing if price breaks this 19. So that's what we'll be looking for the XRP price chart. We'll go over to the weekly and take a look on the weekly. So on the weekly, you're above the 3. 9 is providing strong resistance. It's just like the other charts, somewhat upward trend going on here. We don't have an actual market trend reversal until XRP gets above about 44.81 or so. So we'll be waiting on that and see what'll happen. So that's where we're at on the XRP chart. So if you're following along or watching XRP, that's what we have. Interesting thing, Ethereum has definitely been stronger than Bitcoin and the rest of the market lately. So I'll switch over to there right quick. This is the weekly chart, right? So we did get a little breach of the weekly, which we were looking for on Bitcoin and the other charts. Looks like it couldn't really hold that support. So we're trying to fight right now to see if it'll get back above this 19 and continue this important trend turn above the 19 for Ethereum. Also, you see here the 3 is still climbing. We're looking for it to cross the 19. So I think if this upward price movement continues, we'll see this 3 cross, and that'll give us a support above the 19, right? Of course, we do still have this group of resistances to get past. So just because we get above this 19 and kind of confirm the trend turn, you still have tough resistances with these other EMAs right there in front of you. So our main price level to get above for Ethereum will be $2,346. And then you're kind of into what I call the price discovery area, right? So that's what we're looking at for Ethereum. We did have Quant kind of leading the market before a lot of this upward momentum started for the other coins. So I like to look in on Quant just as a comparison. As we can see, Quant did its kind of run off the bottom, even on this weekly chart, crossed, confirmed a longer bullish trend, and it's been holding pretty steady above this 19, right? So what we'll be looking for here is we can see the 9 is threatening to cross above the 19, and this will give us some momentum to keep this bullish trend going. We didn't dip, down here and lose this 19, even with these 2 recent weekly red candles. as it cooled off a little bit. So it's still positive and can be even more positive if this 9 happens to cross over this 18, and then quant could continue to keep its support above this 19, which is really important. But it's looking good. And if Bitcoin and some of the other assets can catch up to this area right above the 19 on a weekly, that'll be very positive. Let's see, ETH Classic was kind of running as well early, so I'll take a look in on it. And as we see, booyah, like ran off its bottom, got all these crosses, confirmed the market reversal here above the weekly 19, and continue this cross through that noise that these other additional EMAs. So it even broke through there with the cross, because we can see the 3 breached above that gave us this momentum to break through this stuff. We see the 9 crossed over as well. That continued this momentum to break through that noise. So we see that once we break through this 19, getting through these other resistances is not always that difficult once we get through the main one in the 18. But you do need the 3 and the 9 to continue to cross these higher moving averages in order to continue that upward movement. So we got all the crosses here. Ethereum Classic is even holding above the 3 significantly on this weekly chart. So ironically enough, I don't really deal with Ethereum Classic, but from a charting perspective, it's very bullish, right? We can even start to see this 19 looks like it's trying to cross over these additional higher moving averages. So it looks like this momentum will continue. So for anybody that's dealing with ETH Classic, yeah, it's trading good right now. Take one last dip over here. I'm going to try to find the DXY. It's another important indicator. So we are getting a little upward movement in crypto, but the dollar is still very strong, as we see right here, right? So it broke through the 19 considerable long time ago. We'll go back and look at that to show you the method does work for more than just crypto, right? So we had our major breakthrough on the 19 over here. Same kind of setup, because it had the higher resistances above. So these were your resistances, and we see how it used it as resistance, right? Even came here and used that one, came here and used that one. Each step of the way, right, it popped an additional moving averages as it went through. The crosses carried it so it can increase the momentum. And once it broke into the price discovery range, boom, we kind of took off. Still used the 19 as support as it continued its move up, right? So we're looking at where it's at today. Essentially, the dollar is very strong. We had one little dip here. It used the 9 as support, caught itself reset, right? Came back here. We had this kind of dip close in this kind of 19 region. This is why this red line was here, because I was kind of charting where this would pivot would turn, and didn't quite break it. So we don't really need this line at the moment. And we see here, caught support off the 9, breached above, and it's just running very hot. So we possibly could see this go into 110, maybe 111 type range. As long as this dollar is running hot right now, it should kind of keep a lid on crypto. At least we're not dipping significantly, but we're not getting any big parabolic moves to the upside as long as this dollar stays strong. So what we're still looking for before we can expect crypto to really take off, so you can comfortably continue your dollar cost averaging without over extending yourself or worrying about anything right now, take this opportunity. But if we get above this, if we get the dollar below the 104 region, used to be 103 because now it's steady dragging it up, but we're safely saying now 104. If it loses 104, then we can expect the crypto to kind of go stronger to the upside. And you can potentially, because I'm not giving any financial advice here, you can potentially add some more to your crypto bags in this scenario when the weekly trend starts to go down under this 19, and I'll be increasing my crypto bags, right? Anything that I have in cash, I want to add it to the crypto side when I see this in this area. So yep, I just wanted to check in on the dollar. Dollar is getting very strong, as we can see, and we can see why based on all the moving averages as part of the algorithm. Solana was kind of interesting, right? It did its little thing with the hack and everything that it had, but it's still pulling in a lot of incoming volume, right? Or current volume, right? So just to take a look at that, but we had an obvious breakdown there. Could have made a good trade off of that, picked up a lot of money, or Solana still kind of in the same position as Bitcoin, and XRP and the other charts is under the nine, around this three squeeze play. So really don't have anything different going on with Solana, other than there's still a lot of capital going in. So when I say capital, I will quickly dip over here and I'll show you what I mean. For the last few days, Ethereum has been bringing in more volume than Bitcoin, which is very interesting because it doesn't happen very often. So this is kind of new, and it's establishing a little short-term trend of this happening. But we see Ethereum's got high volume, right? And here's what I mean by Solana. Like even with the hack, everything going on, there's still a lot of volume going into Solana. We're at essentially almost 200 million, right? That's very high. These are kind of your average prices. So XRP is doing fairly well because it can slip down to the kind of lower top 10 range sometimes. So sitting here, it's, in perspective to the rest of the market is a good position, but the 78 is still a low number, right? So we eventually would like to see this XRP volume kick up. And I'll take the opportunity to say this, right? We know that a lot of this actual volume here is not retail volume. It's actually ODL related volume, right? So a lot of people often ask, well, like, man, why is XRP price kind of stalled? Well, a lot of ODL volume are net trades, right? They're buying at the same price and selling at the same price. So it's not going to directly affect price, right? And it's a significant portion of the XRP volume. So if people have been wondering about those dynamics, you can see that evident here via the volumes, right? If this 78 million was predominantly retail people who were going in buying XRP because they want to hold it, right, then it would have a more significant effect on price, like we do see with some of these other assets that don't have real utility other than, they're just buying it for gas fees and other things, right? Which they're not really selling back into the market when they do that, right? They're just, burning it or going to another, provider on the platform is paying him for his services or her services, etc. Right? But it's not really utility. And so these buyers, even at lower volumes, do kind of contribute to that price because there are people who are just retail competing. And I say that XRP volume is predominantly utility volume because if I go over here and show you the volume by currency for XRP, we'll see an interesting dynamics. And one of the most things is we have a low volume of Tether. So if I was to compare this to other assets like Bitcoin and some of those, they usually run in a 60-70%, especially if you consider other stable coins, right? So XRP has this low stable coin as a percentage of its volume. So it sits down here in this 38 to 40 range, 41. Korea, which we do know has some ODL partners with SBI Remit, high volume at 17. United States corridor. Ripple says they're not doing any business in U.S., but we know that some ODL obviously looks like it's coming via USD, even if it's just going from one nation in USD to Mexico or whatever is going on. But there's some significant USD volume left. Euro is obviously ODL, 5% of the market. Mexico is one of our biggest corridors, sitting at 3% of the market. Got some Binance stablecoin, got Bitcoin pushed down here at 2.5% of the market. And we like to see this. We don't want Bitcoin up where it used to be 1 and 2 because it has a lot of influence on price, right? Those could be large holders of Bitcoin who are just buying XRP to sell to make more Bitcoin. Doesn't really kind of help. Japan or ODL corridor. So I'm trying to show you the volumes, right? And why I say it's utility based. Philippines ODL corridor, 16 million. British pound ODL corridor, 13 million. Malaysia ODL corridor, 11 million. We don't have confirmation on this Hong Kong, but I have been noticing over the last few days that these three pairs are always identical. So this stable coin here at 11 million, this Hong Kong stable coin, and the Indian rupee are all running identical volumes for the last few days. So it's something interesting going on there, but it hasn't quite been announced yet. So I've just been following it, but I believe this is some remittance volume over RippleNet as well, or some ODL related. We do have XRP related remittances, South Africa. We do have ODL partners in Australia. And as some of you may have seen that was announced today, Brazil is now a official ODL partner with Travelex Bank. And these are normal volumes for Brazil. So what I'll be looking for over the coming days is for this Brazilian volume to actually eventually catch up. And I'm not saying within days, but when it kind of maturates, right, and they really get to pumping or working, right, I expect it to kind of get into these kind of range here of the Mexican volume with Bitso in Japan kind of area, because Brazil does a lot of global remittances, or maybe even the Philippines. I expect it to kind of exceed the Philippines. So I'm hoping that Brazil will break into the top 10, is essentially what I'm saying. So I'll be looking for that over the coming days. Um, and yeah, so you can see that most of the volume related that's going through XRP is utility based with these ODL corridors. So the only thing you really don't have is your 40% here. Um, and we'll see another 5%. You're talking about 46%, 47%, maybe 47% is trading and dealing with this USDT. But the majority of these other corridors are all utility based ODL, XRP actually being used, right? So that's an important thing I wanted to share. I did give you your market update. Oh, you know what? I probably didn't even share the doggone chart because I didn't switch the shares. I apologize. I just noticed that. Let me just quickly stop sharing this. Uh, let's see. And I will quickly just share this. I so apologize. I just noticed that I didn't have that chart up. So, and I'll just quickly recap it. Ethereum running more than Bitcoin, as I mentioned at the beginning. Your high volumes for Solana, your average volumes for XRP as compared to some of these other markets that I was covering. So yeah, I apologize. I didn't have that chart up. The other chart that I was referring to as far as utility volume is this one. You can see the tether, 40% in your ODL corridors. Korea, USD, Euro, Mexico, Japan, Philippines, British Pound, Malaysia, and South Africa and Australia. So at least out of the top 19 or so assets, the majority of them outside of stable coins and Bitcoin are all ODL related. So there you have it. I hope everybody's enjoying these little market updates that I give you. As I said, if you do have a coin that you are particularly trading or holding and you want to um, compare it to the methodology that I use, just drop me a DM or message on Twitter or over here, and I'll check it on YouTube, and we can pull that asset up as well. But you always know where you need to be if you're following along with the 19 method. And what I'm doing here is your entries would have been here when we were breaking the 19. You could have made all of that. And instead of just giving it all back and saying, "Oh, I'm a long-term holder," da 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 da, you would have sold here, and you probably would have almost doubled your bags with this move to the downside. You're waiting for this magic moment. Solano, in this case, getting above 56 and actually breaking through price discovery here lastly at about 73. And hey, all your chips could be on the table again for that magic moment where you get another. And when I say magic moment, so people don't underestimate the potential of crypto and what these assets can do, this entry would have been about here, right? So if I bring that up to the region that these candles were at, that was a 678% increase that you can make by knowing these entry points. And consequently, as important as the entry points are your exit points. And I'll never neglect to make mention of this in my videos, because this is the most important thing. You don't want to be among the crowd crying and hollering about how bad the bear market is and how bad things are. You want to take the bad moments and turn them into profitable moments. So knowing the proper place to exit at the 19 would have netted you 82% more of the asset that you hold, in this case Solano. So this is probably more important than the entry point that I mentioned earlier to me, because you don't have to spend more money and actually gain 80% more of the asset. Here you get a little additional liquidity when it breaks price and goes up in price, but you have the same amount of coins that you had when you bought them, right? So if you got 1,000 Solano here and you get here, you still have the same 1,000 Solano. They're just, you know, worth more as compared, to their paired asset that they're against, in this case against the dollar, right? But this is an important move because you actually, if you had 1,000, right, and you sold, even if you sold the entire 1,000, even though I don't advise it all the time, but just hypothetically, if you did, you made, sig- 80% more of that, right? So talking about 800 more Solano that you made by selling here. And I think that's more important than even the price appreciation that happened here. Pick up your 800 additional Solano and get ready to take that now what might be almost 2,000 Solano, right? And when you get back up in these ranges at $200, then you know what it is, right? So that'll be my market update for today. I hope people, are still appreciate. Oops, and I didn't go back to the doggone chart. I apologize, man. Trying to do this stuff live. Um, I have to get used to it, right? So I apologize about that. Yeah. So I'm just gonna kind of end it there. I don't want to switch back over to this other Solano chart. Should I right quick? Yeah. I think y'all get the point. But yeah, if you have any questions, um, you want to see your asset as it compares to the 19 and how successful you could be as well. Um, and if you want to, tweak around with some other numbers, again, this is just kind of an experiment that I do here to allow people to um, see the information and the data. It works very well for me. Of course, I've been using it for years, but I wanted to go public enough so people could see that I'm not just arbitrarily calling stuff after it happens, right? You could take this information, look back historically, and you can follow along going into the future and see how well it performs. And you can see that you don't really have to have the fear and the anxiety against learning how to manage your assets. So I thank everybody who has provided me with feedback and reviewed my videos so far. And I'll continue to do them in the future. So I want everyone to have a great day and hope you prosper.